Welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me, as always, is new Michael, Kevin Jank.
And here we are with an exciting new podcast for the 90s. Who knows, 2024. But still.
Yes, the comic we're doing today, Marvel tried to debut a new exciting team of young superheroes.
Yeah. They delivered on part of that. I don't know how exciting it was.
They were young and new.
Yeah.
The New Warriors, that's what they were called.
Yeah.
Way better than the old Warriors. They're the New Warriors.
That's right.
Why don't you tell the kids?
They should have, this is a Thor book. They should have come in as we're the New Warriors 3. We're 7. I don't care. We're taking the name. We're young and we don't care about the old establishment.
Yeah, tell the kids what Thor book we're reading, Jack.
We're reading The Mighty Thor number 412 from the very end of the Bronze Age, mid-December 1989. Not even just regular December. The second one they published in December, right up to the end.
Long-time listeners of the show, we used to, when Michael and I started, we got into the details of the Bronze Age and everything. Technically, the Bronze Age ended, around 85, 86, but we stretch it to include all of the 80s. But we never pick a book outside of the 1980s, so Jank got as close as he could get.
Yep. I'm right up to the equator on this one.
But, yeah, because you pick this because it's one of the only new, I was going to say it's one of the only, they debuted there's a cameo appearance in the previous issue, I think.
Yep.
And then this is their first full story, and then the year changed. So yeah, this is pretty much all the latest you can get to get a New Warriors book.
Yep, this is the only option we had. I think their own comic book started sometime in July of 1990 or something like that. So
yes, July 1990 is when it started. All right, so before we get into the New Warriors and Thor, let's remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're at 220 subscribers. We held steady.
I guess we started losing some.
Yeah, we didn't lose anybody. They all came home. So, the Rainbow Raider, I guess they didn't really bring them in like we thought, but it's all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they should have. I think once the word gets out, that was actually a fun issue.
So, all right, the Thor issue 412 from 1989. And this was part of the Acts of Vengeance crossover at Marvel. And,
we talked about that before on the show when Typhoid Mary was trying to bang that underage kid with Power Packs.
I forgot. I was trying to remember when we had this before. But, Acts of Vengeance, basically a Marvel crossover event from December of 89 until February of 1990. It's centered on the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, but involved a bunch of books. Yeah. And, man, there's a lot of books. Because I went to the Wikipedia page just to count, let's see how many books. And there was a lot, more than I could count. So there were a lot.
Yeah, so, I think it was pretty much line wide mostly. I don't remember what the New Mutants one was. I don't remember who they fought.
Yeah, even though it was an Avengers Fantastic Four centric storyline, it did bleed into the mutants. I guess it was a response to what the X-Men had Inferno, right? Around this time.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit before this. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was the equivalent for the other hero teams, but yeah, it did bleed into the mutants.
It did involve the X-Men and stuff. Yeah, Daredevil even got involved. He was fighting Ultron, which is just insane.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. Yeah. So the basic premise behind it there, Jank, was that Loki wanted to get revenge at Thor because he's Loki, and I guess he disguised himself because he appears in this book, but you're like, who's that guy? But that's Loki. Yeah. And he just wanted to mix them up. He'd get a bunch of heroes to switch partners and beat everybody up.
I think he just wanted to have all the villains attack at the same time, essentially, but to also mix it up and not fight the same people who've beaten their asses 40 times before. How about you fight somebody else? Red Skull, you don't go after Captain America. You go after Iron Man or something.
Matchups make fights. Captain America's got your number. Maybe go to someone else this time. So.
Yeah. Somebody's not as good as the ground and pound.
So that was the premise behind Acts of Vengeance.
Yeah, it's a solid premise. I like it.
This was right when I was getting out of comics around this time, so I don't have too many vivid memories of Acts of Vengeance. I do have that Daredevil where he fought Ultron, though. When you mentioned that, I did remember that. And I guess at the end of Acts of Vengeance, Loki, his last parting shot was he made the Tri-Sentinel. He merged. Oh, yeah. And then I believe Spider-Man beat him, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
any other Spider-Man extra powers?
Yeah, what was that? Captain Universe, or what the hell was his name back then?
Captain Universe, yep, that's it.
So, any other memories from Acts of Vengeance, Jack?
Well, of course, the X-Men one was, I don't even know if it technically tied in, but they definitely called it Acts of Vengeance because it involved the Mandarin, but that was when, Psylocke became Asian.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know if he was working for Loki at the time, or it was just, they happened to be there because, Jubilee and Wolverine and Psylocke were all in Asia. But I remember they slapped the Acts of Vengeance thing on it.
Yeah. I can picture that cover right now as you say that, yeah.
Yep.
All right, so now the Thor we're dealing with in this book is not the traditional Thor. And we've done Thor before on this show, and we've gone over the publication history and all that stuff like we usually do, so I'm not going to do it again. But we've never talked about this fella, Eric Masterson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know his backstory?
He was like an architect, I believe.
I believe that is correct, yep.
During the period where Thor was he had gotten rid of the Donald Blake persona. Like, he kind of realized, hey, that was all made up. Odin just was punishing me to make me think I had an Earth alter ego or something.
Yeah, I'm very confused about all that.
Yeah.
Because, like, initially, when Thor started, he was Dr. Donald Blake. He found the hammer of Thor. And, remember, he was like a
stick. Yeah, he found a stick in a cave, and he just happened to tap it against the wall, and all of a sudden it turned into a giant hammer. And
because there were space monkeys coming down, there were aliens, and he was scared. He's trying to defend himself from the aliens, and he hit it on the wall, and boom, he turns into the mighty Thor. Now, like when he turned into Thor, though, he was Thor. He wasn't Donald Blake, right? Like he was Thor.
Yeah, correct. He got much bigger. He was Thor. He started talking all Thor-like.
Yeah. He wasn't like Donald Blake and just a bit like kind of like Shazam when the kid turned into Shazam. He became Shazam originally,
Yeah, exactly.
So and then if he was separated from his hammer for like more than a minute or something, he reverted to Dr. Donald Blake. And Donald Blake had a bad leg. He had a gimpy leg.
Much shorter hair, yeah. So it was quite the transformation.
But then over the years they changed that, and like you were saying there. What did they say? That it was all just a trick, but that he was always Donald Blake was always Thor?
Yeah, that he was always Thor, and like basically Thor was, grab assing too much there in Valhalla. He wasn't focusing on his duties.
Or Asgard, in Asgard. Yeah.
Yeah. So Odin sent him to Earth as a human, like as this Donald Blake guy. He, took away his powers, made him just a mortal, lame human, and was like, okay, I'm going to take away all your memories and then leave this stick here in hopes one day you'll find it and be worthy again. I guess. I don't know.
Space aliens are going to come down, drive you into this cave, and you're going to find the stick. So, all right.
And if you're worthy, you'll get your powers back. And
okay,
I don't know why he kept that ruse going for so long after that. Like, why he made him think, you're still two different guys. Like, at that point, maybe you say, okay, you learned your lesson.
Because Odin's a jerk.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, Thor was a construction worker.
Yeah.
Named like, kind of like Sonny Jurgensen, the old quarterback from Washington.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, some Swedish name or Norwegian name. All right. So, and Eric Masterson, like you mentioned, was an architect he visited the construction site or something, and some villains attacked the construction site. I can't remember who the villains were. I think there was a guy named
like 90% of these issues we do, they end up fighting at a construction site, including this one, so it makes sense.
And like a girder fell on Eric Masterson and injured him. And Thor started taking him under his wing to take care of him, because he felt bad. And they became chums, I guess. And
Eric Masterson's baby bird he found, and he was nursing it back to health.
So, but then they had an adventure, like how involved, because I read this right before the show, but I don't know if you know more about this than I do. You should probably take this, but do you know more?
I looked it up as well, and that's about all I know too. Like, somehow,
I think they had an adventure together involving the Celestials, and they went to some black dimension or something. I don't know. But the two of them went and they had to rescue Hercules.
Yep.
And that's how Hercules is also in this issue. And
I think that's because of that evolutionary war thing we read.
Yes.
Remember where Hercules was supposedly dead, and so was the High Evolutionary.
There you go.
But no, it turns out they were in some black dimension or something.
This is all tying together.
Yeah,
all tying together.
Here's
a little tease for later in the show, but don't say it now, Jenk. But did you notice the comic book that Hercules was reading in this issue?
Oh, I did not.
Oh, wait till you see. It is awesome.
Oh, man.
All right.
Be more eagle-eyed.
So Masterson accompanied Thor on that adventure. They brought Hercules back. So in this issue, Hercules is hanging out at Masterson's apartment. He's just living there.
Rent-free.
And this Masterson fella has a son and an ex-wife.
Yeah. She's introduced, I guess, here, it seems like.
Yeah, she's very mysterious.
Yeah.
You don't get to see her face or anything. She's wearing this big coat and a big floppy hat. She kind of looked like, who's that villain? Belladonna.
Oh, yeah.
Or Belladonna.
That's true, yeah.
That's Spider-Man.
Yeah. That makes sense. Should have been her.
Yeah. All right. So, but this Masterson fella, Thor, they got involved with something with Loki again, and I believe Thor killed Loki.
Oh. No wonder he wants acts of vengeance.
Yeah, like Thor just said, you know what, I've had enough of this Loki guy. So he killed him. And Odin says, hey, Thor, guess what? You're banished, buddy. You're gone. You can't go to Earth anymore. You can't be in Asgard. We're sending you somewhere. I don't know where, but you're not going anywhere. And Thor petitioned Odin. He said, yeah, okay. Sure, I killed Loki. But you can't leave Midgard, old Earth. You can't leave it unprotected. You know, it needs to have a champion down there to protect it.
We only have like 40 other superheroes in the New York area.
And Odin said, okay, all right. We'll let that Eric Masterson fellow be the new Thor. Well, at first they merged together into like one body.
Yeah, somehow.
There's probably a lot of drinking involved.
This architect was apparently worthy of wielding Mjolnir.
Yeah, he picked up Mjolnir at one point.
Yeah.
This Mjolnir's a whore. Just let anybody pick him up. That's what is going on. Yeah, it seems like everyone's grabbing Mjolnir and lifting him up these days. But Eric Masterson, though, so they merged together. I don't have a concept of how that worked exactly, but
no. Yeah, I don't know if it's kind of like the old Captain Marvel thing where they would switch places in the negative zone type thing, or what exactly that entailed.
But they became merged in issue 408. Eric Masterson's first appearance was Thor 391, and he was created by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz, the creators of this here book today we're reading. And they became merged in 408. Then he became Thor proper in issue 432.
Yeah.
So I guess Thor doesn't kill Loki until closer to that, I guess. And I think that's how. I don't know. Who cares?
I remember he did try to keep it secret for a while. I remember I think it was like Infinity Gauntlet or one of those things where he was like not letting the Avengers know. Like he had a big beard, so like they wouldn't notice he was a different guy.
Yeah, he's trying to like play it all cool. And then with issue 459 of Thor, I guess Thor returned and he became Thor again. So, but Odin gave Masterson a hammer. It's a mace, really. It's not really a hammer, called Thunderstrike. So then he became Thunderstruck.
That's right. He gave him his own series and everything for a while.
And what I remember of Thunderstrike was he was Thor, but he had a ponytail and a leather vest.
Yep. And like a goatee.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Big teeth.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a thinner version of the comic book guy from The Simpsons. A little bit from
And I don't know if you know this, though, Jank, but sadly, this Eric Masterson fella, he died in Strange, Volume 3, Issue 3, 2022. So just recently. Yeah.
Wow. They finally got rid of him.
Yeah. Took a while. But...
I feel like he just dropped off the face of the Marvel Universe for many years there, so I guess it's fitting they finally just ended it. Although, like anyone else in comics, I'm sure he'll be back, or is already back by now.
He's already been back 2 more times in the 2 years. But he was he was brought back by like the Grim Reaper brought back some dead people, and then he was brought back as like a zombie one other time. That's crazy. 2 years he's already been back.
That's insane.
But yeah, so that's unless I copied that date wrong, but I think it was 2022.
No, I believe that. Yeah.
So that's Eric Masterson, and we'll get into more as we go through the issue. All right, so now the big main event here. The main villain in this book is the Juggernaut, we should mention.
Yeah. I saw him recently in that Uncanny X-Men issue, and here he's back again.
I always loved the Juggernaut. So, but the New Warriors are the main event, and they were created by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz. In the first series, you mentioned they got their own series. That ran for 75 issues from July 1990 until September 1996. Did you ever purchase any of those?
I do have some of those, mostly, as you would expect for other reasons than the New Warriors themselves. Like there was Baby Nicieza was the guy writing that one, and he was also writing X-Force. So, there was some X-Force crossover issues. And then I bought some of the later ones, like 50 or 60s when, they added the Scarlet Spider to the team during like the whole Clone Saga.
You're the only person I know who loves the Clone Saga.
I don't love it. But that is when I got into Spider-Man. So, sad as it is, that's,
All right.
Brought me in.
But there have been 5 volumes of New Warriors series over the years, with the last one being a 12-issue run in 2014-2015.
I did have that one, and I had volume 4 as well. Because that's when I started just buying everything Marvel was putting out. Almost. And like the first volume 4 had a lot to do with like it spun out of Civil War, I think. So I'm like, ooh, I'm interested in this. And then like volume 5, I think the leader was like the new Scarlet Spider, who was Kane, another Clone Saga character.
Yeah, the New Warriors played a pivotal role in Civil War. And
yes,
let's talk about the members first, and then we'll get into that. So the members of the New Warriors are Firestar, and she is Angelica Jones. First in continuity appearance was Uncanny X-Men 193 in 1985, and that version was created by Chris Claremont and John Romita Jr., and she was a mutant recruited by Emma Frost for the Hellions, which was basically the evil version of the New Mutants.
Yeah, who all wore like these weird pink and purple unitards. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, her first
4-issue limited series. Yeah, but don't think it's not on my list for things to do at one point.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Of course, her first real appearance was in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon in 1981. That's where she was initially first created, but that's not in Marvel continuity, so that does not really count.
That's true.
Now, the reason why she appeared in that, for those who don't remember, that was my favorite comic or favorite cartoon when I was a kid. But for those who don't remember, it was Spider-Man, Firestar, and Iceman together.
Yeah. What a team.
What? Why is Spider-Man hanging out with these jabronis? But, yeah, so in that story, Firestar was a former X-Man. She was, and so was Iceman. So that's how they.
Spider-Man makes sense as the third member of this trio.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But the reason they had to create her is because they wanted the Human Torch, and Marvel didn't have the rights to the Human Torch.
Ooh.
At least for animation purposes and stuff like that. Because
is that also why that Fantastic Four cartoon they had to have Robbie the Robot or whatever instead of Human Torch? Yeah.
Yep. That is correct.
Yeah.
So that cartoon was great. Although I watched one recently within the past 5 years or so as an adult, and that cartoon was not great, but it was still awesome though for nostalgia purposes. But Firestar, she just controls she shoots fire and stuff like that. That's all.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Human Torch, but looks less flamey. She looks kind of normal.
Yeah, she's a foxy girl instead of a jerk like the Human Torch. Then we have Namorita. Is it Namorita or Namorita? Namorita, I'm going to go with.
Yeah, that's what I would go with.
And her first appearance was Submariner issue 50, 1972. She dates all the way back to then. She was created by Bill Everett. She was the daughter of Namora, the half-human cousin of Namor. But here's where it gets weird, because she was actually a clone of her own mother.
Oh.
And she was put into her mom by some mad scientist guy. So the mom was pregnant with, not through normal means, but through scientific trickery, with a clone of herself.
Oh my God! Can't we just get normal pregnancy and not be a clone of somebody? Just have babies the natural way.
That's very strange, but yeah, she's just a teenage girl version of Submariner, Namor. It's just the same thing, basically.
Little wings on her feet and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we have a fella named Night Thrasher.
Yeah, he's the most '90s character of them all.
All right, this guy, his real name is Dwayne Michael Taylor. His first appearance was Thor 411, and of course created by DeFalco and friends. And so Tom DeFalco, he was the editor-in-chief. He came in after Jim Shooter. He was the guy who followed him. Mm-hmm. And he was looking for ways to, appeal to a younger audience. So he went to the newsstand, and he said, hey, buddy, guy running the newsstand here, what kind of books do the kids like? What kind of magazines do the kids like? And the guy said, well, they like this skateboard magazine called Thrashing. And so I call them skateboards. And he created Night Thrasher, the superhero on a skateboard. This is the dumbest thing I've ever read in my life.
I mean, he needs something else, I think. You could do it, like Silver Surfer, something that's kind of cool. But
listen, even Silver Surfer is super dumb when you really sit down and think about it. But it works somehow because it's in space. Yeah. And he's all, he's got his highfalutin concepts of, being intergalactic and everything. So it kind of works.
Skateboard mostly works for traveling through space. It's not like he fights on it most of the time.
But this guy's on his skateboard.
Certainly wouldn't use it against the Juggernaut to be like, hey, I'm going to hit you with my skateboard.
That's what this guy tries to do, though. Now, are you familiar with his backstory at all?
Just a little bit, not too much. Because I've got anger problems.
Yeah, he does need anger management. But I read it again right before the show, and I still don't understand it. But here's my idea of what I read. So his dad was in the army, and he was it was very similar to Kane Marco in the Juggernaut situation. His dad was in the army somewhere, and he found some temple of some dragon thing.
Okay.
And there's a priestess there, who wanted this guy to have make sweet, sweet love to her so they could have a baby who would be enchanted or something, like a hellspawn of this demon, or I don't know, something along those lines.
So he put a clone inside of her, and she had a clone of her herself.
Nah, this guy said, hey, lady, I'm married. I love my wife. I got a kid back home, and I'm not going to be doing any of that monkey shines with you. And she got real mad,
Uh-oh.
So years later, she tracked him down to the United States and murdered him and his wife in front of the kid.
Wow.
But
this is like the movie Fatal Attraction. It's something I didn't do it.
Again, this is what I read. I don't know, right before I took a nap. So who knows if this is true? But then she somehow convinced that little kid who was Night Thrasher that she did not murder his father, and then her and some other person took Night Thrasher, kind of adopted him and raised him to be a living weapon. Like Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And
he practically was Iron Fist. He fought a dragon in a cave or something. Come on.
Yeah, now that you mention it, there's also his dad owns some foundation too or something where he gets money because he's got money and stuff. So, wow, that is weird. So
skateboard, this guy is not an original bone in his body.
So, he studied the martial arts and all the combat techniques involving skateboards, and he became a vigilante superhero who fought evil, and he had a brother and sister, I believe, crime fighting partners, Silhouette and Debbie or something. I don't know, I can't remember the names.
Yeah, the brother I know comes back. I believe after Civil War, he kind of takes the mantle as Night Thrasher.
Oh yeah, because that's a void that needed filled. You can't have. Yeah. What would the world do without Night Thrasher?
Someone's got to be grinding on rails.
So, anyway, but yeah, like you mentioned, this guy's really hot-tempered, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like obsessed with, because the way he was raised by these evil people, he's just obsessed with catching criminals and just murdering them. I don't know. Does he murder people? It seems like it.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he could stop himself. Like
he's basically the Punisher with a skateboard.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Pretty great. I kind of like.
And he's got like an all black costume, and he wears like a mask that covers his face, and there's like some red highlights involved and stuff. But he's just on his black skateboard, zipping around. So that brings us to Nova, and I thought this was like a new Nova, like a kid Nova or something. But this is the same Richard Rider from the 70s.
Yep. Apparently still a kid, not aging.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I don't. Because wasn't he like an adult in the like Nova Corps and all that? And
so didn't he have a job like at Project Pegasus, or did that come later on? Like I thought he was, kind of a scientist or something.
I don't know, but this is the same kid, and we've done a Nova issue on the show before, created by Marv Wolfman and John Romita Sr. Yeah, he's just how would you describe Nova's powers? He just flies around and.
Yeah, it's kind of like a human rocket, I guess, a little bit. And I think he can shoot energy blasts at least certain points of his career.
Probably.
But he's super strong. He can fly.
You want to create a team called the New Warriors and something new and fresh for the 90s, and you get a guy from 1976?
Yeah.
I guess. It's odd. All right. Now, the next guy we have is Marvel Boy. And
that's right.
I had no idea who this was. And then I was reading his backstory. I'm like, holy hell, I love this guy.
It's a pretty cool backstory.
Because this is the younger version of future Vance Astro of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. Yeah, that guy went to space and ended up in the future. And I guess at some point, like, he came back and told his younger self, like, hey, you're going to want to go to space, but don't do it.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
Yeah, Vance Astrovic, for those who don't remember, he became an astronaut, and they sent him on some mission. I forget where he was going, what the planet name or whatever it was, but they sent him into deep space, and he had to go into suspended animation. And the journey took him, 1,000 years or something to get there?
Yeah.
And then when he gets there, though, technology has surpassed everything that they had back then, so the planet's already colonized. There are already people there. And everything's so he just shows up like, hell, I just wasted my life. What was I going here? And now he's like locked in a special suit. He can't take the suit off or he'll die.
This guy does not have those problems, thankfully. He just gets bone Firestar all the time. He can take that suit off constantly.
Yeah, this guy, the young Vance Astrovic, he has burgeoning telekinetic powers, and that's about it. He has a terrible costume. And as you mentioned, he started dating Firestar.
Yeah, it does get better once they take the little helmet or the little mask thing off. He loses that eventually, and it's a little cooler. Yeah, the cape's,
it's not a good look.
The choice.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, he and Firestar were an item, and they were engaged and everything. But then they eventually broke it off, right?
Yeah, that's sad. No one can ever be happy at Marvel. That'll break everyone up eventually. But yeah, the two of them joined the Avengers in the late 90s as he was Justice by that point. But then him and Firestar went to the Avengers for a while. I guess I think he was tried for murdering his father at a certain point. Because his father was an abusive drunk type of thing, and he was beating on his mom. And so in just kind of self-defense, he used his powers against him, and it accidentally killed him. So he had to go to trial, and there was a whole, somehow they proved, I think he did do some time in jail, but he eventually got out and then kind of, cleaned up his act. But yeah, it's a crazy story, but he's pretty interesting. I like that guy.
Now, the final member of the team is Speedball.
That's right.
Named Robert Baldwin. His first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man Annual 22, and I had this. I bought this when it came out.
Me too. Yeah.
1988. Created by Roger Stern.
Came out. I had it.
Yeah, I bought it fresh off the newsstand. Created by Roger Stern and Steve Ditko. Speedball is basically a kid. There's some sort of a mix-up in a lab experiment gone wrong, and he basically became like a super ball. His body, he can like bounce. Anytime he's hit with any force, he just bounces around or jumps around. So.
His parents were using a radioactive condom, and he absorbed that material. Now he just bounces.
Now he's a little Speedball. So,
yeah.
How do you feel about Speedball? You a fan?
I mean, it's a great name. The fact that they just took terminology from, the drug world and named it Speedball.
What is technically a Speedball? Cocaine and heroin together? Is that what that is?
I think so. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So it's kind of a classic Ditko creation, I would say.
Yeah. Speedball. Except like 1988.
Yeah, that was the problem. You're reading this like, wow, this sounds like something from the 60s.
But, yeah. But it's interesting. This look is not the best. I feel like they kind of perfected it a little bit later on, but.
This is how I always think of him. He just got like the blue outfit with his hair flowing out of the top of his mask or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned earlier the Civil War, so these here New Warriors. Now, at the time this happened, though, Firestar wasn't part of the New Warriors. And
this was after that first book was canceled. Then they had a second book that I think lasted, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And I think this was like, by the time they were getting to like the third volume, that really didn't last long, where the New Warriors had basically become like reality TV stars. Like they would video their exploits, and, their adventures and be like, hey, I'm Speedball and this is the butt chug. And just be like jackass stuff, I guess. I don't know. And, so one day they were like, all right, we're going to go, we found this house in like, Stamford, Connecticut that, a bunch of like 4 supervillains are in there. They're all
the home of WWE headquarters, Stanford.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe this was a personal attack on them then. Yeah, I don't know. Vince, we don't like what you've been doing with people's heads. So they're like these 4 supervillains are camped out in this. They've escaped from jail and they're camped out in this house. We're gonna bust in and get them, and we're gonna apprehend them. One of those supervillains happened to be Nitro, the guy who could explode himself, and he was on like, mutant growth hormone or something at the time, which greatly amplified his powers, which that no one knew about. And, so they happened to also be, this house was very close to a school. This was like the middle of the day when all the kids were there for school. And, Nitro did his thing, blew himself up, and, the entire school was wiped out. So that was kind of the inciting incident for the Civil War is, hey, look what you just let anybody be a superhero, and this is what happens. The whole school gets blown up.
Yeah, so they had the whole anti-registration, and like Iron Man wanted all his heroes to be registered, right? And Captain America and his crew said no, and all that kind of stuff. All right, but of the New Warriors there that day, like Namorita died, Nova I think died, right? Or no?
No, Nova. I don't think he was on the team at the time. Want to say.
Yeah, Firestar and Marvel Boy were not there.
Yeah, they were. I think they moved on. I think there was some other new people.
Okay, Speedball was there, but he survived because he's Speedball. Like he just got bounced to like Iowa or something. But
he just kind of absorbed it, yeah. But it like changed his powers in a strange way.
Yeah, tell the kids what he became then. I remember this.
Yeah, his power then became like it would activate when he was in pain. I guess to reflect, how bad he felt over what happened. So he became a guy named Penance, and he would basically wear this like metal suit, like an Iron Maiden type thing that would have like, spikes on the inside so that he can keep cutting himself, and, inducing pain to activate his powers. So, his story got real dark there.
For a little bit. I guess you blew up in elementary school, that'll happen.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows after that.
As we mentioned, the creators here are Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz. We've talked about DeFalco on the show many times, but he did a lot of Spider-Man stuff too, but he was the editor-in-chief. And he did all but 2 issues of Thor from issue 383 to 459. So it's a pretty good run there. Mm-hmm. And then Ron Frenz had 365 penciling credits of Marvel, and he did all but 10 of those DeFalco issues. So he would have done 66 out of like 76 issues during that same run. So both of them are tied at the hip there for Thor. And I got to be honest, this whole Eric Masterson stuff, it sounds terrible. Because it really gets into like his ex-wife and his kid and everything, and it's like,
yeah,
who cares? Kramer versus Kramer. I don't want to read it. I just want to see punching. So.
Well, this issue was mostly punching, and just
this issue was pretty good.
Yeah.
And wait till you see the comic book.
Favorite thing, you like punching, and then you also love divorces.
And wait till you see the comic book Hercules is reading.
I saw it. I did go peek. Yep. It all makes sense now.
All right, Jack, why don't you describe the cover for us?
All right. Well, this cover does not look like something that was drawn on the cusp of the 90s to me at all.
No.
It looks a lot more classic than it was. So we got the little corner box there. We got Thor kind of, I don't know, trying to he just threw a discus, I guess. I don't know. And put in the Olympics. We got the Axe of Vengeance banner up top, so you know that this is part of the crossover. And we get the Mighty Thor in the classic font there. And a lot of text on here. Guest starring Namorita, Firestar, Kid Nova, who's, you know, been around for 20 years now. Nova still. Speedball, Marvel Boy, Night Thrasher versus the unstoppable Juggernaut. Plus, the first look at Marvel's newest super team, the New Warriors. I don't know if that's a plus when you just listed all.
Yeah, that's the same thing that we talked about earlier. Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird. But then it's a kind of a like a teal background, and there's a big rip in the middle where the New Warriors are just pouring out of. Namorita's kind of flying there, so is Firestar, Kid Nova as well. A lot of flyers on this team. And then we got Speedball just kind of trying to reach up to grab something on the top shelf at the grocery store, I think. And Marvel Boy's kind of in the background, like they don't want to show him too much. They're like, yeah, this costume's not great. We're going to hide it in the back.
Yeah.
But then we got, there's Night Thrasher just skateboarding away. These other guys can fly all they want, but I'm just going to skateboard.
But I like that they're busting through the cover. So like they're not on the cover, they're busting through it. So had they not decided to bust through the cover would have just been a picture of Thor on the far left and a side view of the Juggernaut on the far right, and then a bunch of teal in the middle. Like they should have rethought that a little bit.
Drawn some background or something.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty barren for sure. But I do like the thing with a little like piece of ripped page kind of over Juggernaut's face there. Like it flew off. They ripped through it so fast.
So this is drawn by Ron Friends, inked by Joe Sinnott. So there you go. It's quite the cover. Man, I don't know.
It's very packed now.
Are the New Warriors the worst superhero team ever? Like, would you? I mean, how would you rank them compared to the Great Lakes Avengers? What do you think?
I mean, they're probably, in terms of powers, they're probably better than the Great Lakes Avengers. Although the Great Lakes Avengers were not as bad as we thought.
They have a guy on a skateboard.
At least it's better than that proposed New Warriors team that was so bad they didn't even put the book out.
What was that?
I don't know if you remember this. This is like going to be volume 6. I want to say this was like a little bit before the pandemic or around the time when the pandemic started. But it got roasted so badly that they were like, nope, we're not putting this out. They eventually just canceled the book.
Like, do you
it was
remember?
A bunch of characters, like there was like a vampire who was like emo and they called him B negative. And there's like a fat girl with a backpack that could like, you know, conjure anything. And people are just like, is this just Dora the Explorer? Like, what are we doing? It was really bad. Like, yeah, they eventually had to cancel the book because there was literally nobody wanted it.
That's interesting. I'll have to read up on that. But all right, so when I think of terrible superhero teams, they're right there. I mean, who would like the Defenders were better, the Champions were better, all those B-tier teams were way better than these guys, you know. So
yeah, I mean, this team is not without its powerhouses, I guess. Like, you know, Nova and Namorita and Firestar and Marvel Boy, they're pretty good. Maybe Night Thrasher aren't the best, necessarily.
Dude on a skateboard.
That's for sure.
All right, so we open it up.
Night Thrasher is just like Batman with a skateboard. Like, I don't know, that's kind of interesting.
No, it's not at all. So we open it up. Stanley presents the mighty Thor, and we get a big splash page of just the Juggernaut's face, and he's staring at us, and he's like confused, and he's saying, "I don't believe this. This has got to be a joke. I'm Kane Marco, the Juggernaut, the closest thing you ever see to irresistible force. Nothing can stop me, not Spider-Man, not the Hulk, not even the blasted X-Men. None of them could ever truly beat me. I just flattened the mighty Thor, hurt him big time. And you got the nerve to challenge me? You?" And then we open it again. We get a two-folded page here of a giant panel of the New Warriors.
Yeah.
They're looking intimidating there. Yeah. Dude, Marvel Boy, what is going on? Describe Marvel Boy's costume, because I don't think we did yet. It's awful.
Yeah, it's not great. He's kind of got like a blue, kind of like the original X-Men type costume, where it's like got that blue head.
You know what I'm thinking here? Doesn't he kind of look like Hawk or Dove, or Dove from Hawk and Dove?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, like the original version. Like
when he was a dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot like that. He's kind of like a blue cape. It's kind of white on the inside, and then the suit itself is kind of mostly blue, but there's some stretches of white. Yeah, it's kind of dorky. They definitely got this one better.
Very dorky. How did Firestar fall for that guy? She had to hear he was Vance Astor, because Vance Astor is cool. She's like, "Oh, this dork grows into Vance Astor. I can wait." But yeah, I guess she couldn't. So.
Captain America's shield at some point. Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, the New Warriors are ready, and there's Thor on the ground. He's got little sparkles going around his head because he was knocked loopy by the Juggernaut. But we found out later, it really wasn't the Juggernaut that knocked him loopy. It was, he's been having seizures.
Yeah. That's what you want in a Thor comic. But Thor to be having a seizure.
I think that was a consequence of him merging with Masterson, though, right? Like, this is probably a side effect of that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also, I briefly looked through the next issue because they promised what would happen in the next issue, and it sounded interesting. So I think it's also Loki is messing with him as part of this whole thing. So I think in the next issue, kind of Thor in like the astral realm fights his own armored self or something, and it's, I don't know. Supposedly after that it's fixed. He's cured. So if you're having seizures, just go in the astral realm and fight yourself. You'll be all better. Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so the New Warriors are eyeing up Juggernaut there, and they keep calling him Tubby and stuff. And Ron Friends does draw him kind of like chubby.
Yeah, but he's a little bit thick. Yeah.
So they're saying, "Hey, how do we fight the Juggernaut?" And Speedball's like, "Hey, don't worry, they're New Warriors. I'll go beat Juggernaut. I'm Speedball."
Speedball.
He goes running at him, and he's just bouncing all around Juggernaut. Like, what did he think was going to happen?
Yeah, he's not even like hitting him. He's just bouncing around him, like annoying him. Like, I don't know what this is supposed to do.
So Juggernaut just backhands him into space, basically. And now, like, the two strongest members of the team, Namorita and Nova, they grab a steel girder, and they fly it into Juggernaut, and they wrap it around them. I don't know, that's impressive, I guess. Yeah. So they tie him up. But what does Juggernaut do there, Jake?
He just flexes and, shoots it right off. Like, bam, just bursts out of it. So it didn't really slow him down for much time at all.
And he keeps telling these dummies, like, "I'm the Juggernaut. Nothing can stop me. What don't you understand?"
Yeah. I'll beat your ass with Charles.
So, who steps up next?
Oh, boy. Now they're sending in the big guns. If Speedball couldn't do it, it's up to Night Thrasher here.
Skateboard.
So he's like, "Okay, Marvel Boy and Firestar, you guys go get Thor to safety. That's not a job for Night Thrasher. Taking down Juggernaut, that's a job for Night Thrasher and his skateboard. I'm going in."
But really, when you think about it, they should have done the opposite, because like Thor's a pretty big dude, and Firestar and Marble Boy were having trouble even lifting him. Where Night Thrasher, they could have put Thor on the skateboard and like used it as like a dolly.
Yeah.
But instead, he goes in to fight Juggernaut, and it goes about as you would expect.
Yeah. Honestly, again, like Speedball, I don't know what he was planning here because he just kind of goes under Juggernaut's arm, essentially, in a very strange looking panel. Like, Juggernaut's not that big. He's a large fellow, but he's not several stories tall.
Yes. Yeah, the perspective's a bit off there.
Yeah.
Juggernaut hits the ground and causes a shockwave. It knocks Night Thrasher off his skateboard for a second, but he captures it in midair. And what do they call that, Jank? When you flip the board, is that an ollie? You flip the board? I have no idea. And then he jumps and drives the skateboard into the Juggernaut's face.
Yeah.
There's
Take that.
There's a big splash. and all kind of like explosive lines coming off the Juggernaut. Like he just got devastated by this skateboard. So now we flash over to Marble Boy and Firestar. And Marble Boy's trying to pick up Thor with his telekinetic powers, but he's struggling because his telekinetic powers aren't that good. You know?
Yeah, again, like, this is another, Firestar. What are you thinking? This guy can't even get him up.
Can't get it up. So now we cut back. We see a shadowy hand here, and like someone's watching all this transpire in some magical portal. And then we see this guy sitting on a throne, and he's like, "My axe of vengeance. I sent the Juggernaut, and he's gonna the utter humiliation of the Thunder God. So he's gonna be great. It's his grand scheme is all proceeding as planned. Each phase is a brilliant work of art and a beautiful act of vengeance." And this guy looks kind of weird. He kind of looks like Namor, with a busted nose, and maybe like 20 years older. But this is Loki, apparently.
Yep, this is Loki's clever disguise, which again, it's like, if you're going to make a disguise, maybe you go something a little bit less Loki-like, ditch the black hair, something just crazy different, but it just kind of looks like an old sinister man, I guess.
Well, at this point in the comics, didn't Loki have blonde hair, though? Or no?
Did he? I don't think so.
I always thought he had blonde hair, because like when the movies came out and he had black hair, I was like, that's a weird change.
Huh, you know what? And back in the day, he used to always have those helmets on, so you never saw his hair much.
Yeah, that is true. But I could have sworn it was blonde. But anyway, at this point in Acts of Vengeance, like if I'm reading this, at the time, do I know this is Loki? Or is this still a secret at this point?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
This is like the first month of this crossover, so maybe it is a secret at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's not obviously last issue was the first part of this Thor Acts of Vengeance thing, so I don't know. Maybe they're ramping it up.
All right, so we cut back. We see Night Thrasher really giving it to Juggernaut. He's just zipping around them on his skateboard. And he's throwing some bombs or something at him. I don't know. Yeah, he's got a bunch of little gadgets. And Juggernaut's just like, stop wasting your time, kid. Your acid bombs and concussion grenades barely ready to tickle on my scale. And then this Night Thrasher guy, the whole time, he's just screaming. He's very mad all the time. And he's like, you must have a weakness. I will find it. I swear I will. And he's screaming at him. and Juggernaut's just walking away from him like, all right, kid, just shut up. I've had enough of you already. and
Night Thrasher's like, don't turn your back on me. Don't you dare ignore me. And he just jumps on him now. He's just like pounding away. Which, again, not doing anything.
Yeah, he's on his back like a monkey. Just punched him in the back of the head. Yeah. And Juggernaut's just like, what are you doing, dude? This is awful. But, he's like, hey, do more Night Thrasher, Jank. Read that next part in your Night Thrasher voice.
Don't patronize me. I won't rest.
Oh, wait, no. Go to the
Missile?
panel before that. Yeah, the panel before.
You think you're unstoppable, like crime itself, but I've dedicated my life to ridding the streets of scum like you. I'll stop you. I'll stop you all. Will you please give me a break? Don't patronize me. I won't rest until I've given you found a way to make you pay. To make you pay for all of what you've done.
Yes, I think the please give me a break was Juggernaut talking. but you kept it nice, but it's okay. The rest of that was dynamite. I loved every second of that read. You got the part. You are Night Thrasher.
Finally, the hero I've always wanted to be.
But yeah, that gives you a flavor of who this guy is. He's just a lunatic. He's just
yeah.
I
think he's like the team leader, which is a weird choice. Like,
yes,
this is the guy you're putting in charge. That's nuts.
Yeah, he was the team leader, which is weird. I think then he stepped down at some point because he got angry at them or something. And then Namorita took over, and then I think Marvel Boy eventually became the leader. I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah, he seems a little more even-tempered. I think he was the leader in the future, right, of the Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of?
Yes. Yeah, well, Fantastar, yeah, he was like their leader. He was also kind of a hothead back then, too, and I think about it. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, he was
a different guy, though. That's not...
Yeah. Like, I'd be mad, too, if I had to wear that suit all the time.
It's like Fantastar. No. It's not Night Thrasher. It's the other guy. All right, anyway, so now Firestar's flying around. And they're like, hey, Firestar, why don't you go do something? Because you're, like, really powerful. Why don't you go do something in this Juggernaut guy? And
you're the Spider-Man. Go get him.
Juggernaut's just grabbing Night Thrasher by his ankle, spinning him around. And he's like, it's time for you to die, buddy. But nope, Firestar swoops in there and grabs Night Thrasher.
By swinging him by his ankles, you think he was unable to ride a skateboard for a little while after that? Like, he probably at least twisted that ankle.
I don't know. I think he fought through the pain. He seems like the kind of guy that sits at home with his hand over an open flame. You know, he likes the pain. He's all right.
Him and Speedball, when he becomes Penance, will get along just fine.
So, but when Firestar grabs Night Thrasher, she says, Namorita, Nova, now. And then we see Juggernaut standing there. He's like, now? Now what? And then on the next page, Nova and Namorita are just throwing boxcars from a train at him. And kraboom. Oh, boom. B-W-O-O-M. Kraboom.
Yeah. Apparently those boxcars were just full of TNT.
Yeah. They look like old wooden boxcars.
Yeah.
They somehow explode when they hit the Juggernaut. And then Firestar's like, it's over, Thrash. We won. Come on. Doesn't anyone know who the Juggernaut is?
Yeah. These kids don't seem to know anything. Like, if you're going to be superheroes, at least kind of learn who the big threats are. Like, hey, like Juggernaut's made the news once in a while.
Now that I think of it, though, there's an episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends where they fought the Juggernaut. And the X-Men were there. They were at the X-Men mansion. Oh. So she should know. But yeah.
That's not canon. Yeah.
Apparently nobody knows. So yeah, all the new Warriors get together again. They're like, yeah, we won, man. We beat the Juggernaut. This is awesome. But then
Juggernaut all through that skateboard. Thanks, Night Thrasher.
Then Cacathoom, Juggernaut just throws the boxcars off him. And he's like, why do you all look so surprised? I told you that nothing could stop me. I didn't lie. Yeah, I'm the Juggernaut. I don't lie. What the hell? So, all right. So what happens now, Jack?
Now we cut away to Hercules and, Eric Masterson's son. I don't know, like, apparently they also have a babysitter, or it's like,
that is like, yeah, because he was an architect. This is like his secretary or assistant or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes both of them to watch this kid, especially because Hercules is just sitting there reading comics.
And the kid's got a Thor helmet on, and he's playing with, like, superhero action figures or something. So
yeah.
But Hercules is reading a comic book. That's key.
Yep. So they're talking on the news about government, superheroes and the government having to pay for all the damage they do. And then, in the next panel, we get to see what comic book Hercules is reading.
What's he reading, Jack?
It's an issue of Alf.
That's right.
He's got good taste.
And he is loving it. Look at that smile on his face.
Reading all about Magneto.
I'm not a big Hercules guy, but I am now. So
he won you over. That's all it took.
He's reading Alf. Hercules gets it. He knows what's up. So, all right. Well, Hercules is enjoying his Alf comic. This mysterious woman who looks like Carmen Sandiego or Belladonna shows up. And we never see her face, just shot from the back. And the kid runs over, Mommy. And he's all happy. And, the assistant's name is Susan Austin. wonder if she's related to Stone Cold Steve.
Yep. Must be.
And the kids were happy to see his mom, and Hercules is thinking, by my father's beard, a grim challenge doth await the thunder god, one which may o'ertax e'en his immortal powers and patience.
He doesn't get this kind of speak from reading Alf, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
He needs to pick up more of that Alf vernacular.
So
yeah, mom says she's there to reclaim legal custody of her son.
Yes. Yeah. I guess I left that part out. But, so yeah.
You're ready for custody battles.
Yeah, Kramer versus Kramer in the pages of Thor. What more could kids want? All right, so now we cut back to the fight scene, and there's Speedball. Why is Speedball
finally waking up? He's finally becoming a part of this book again.
Yeah, Thor's waking up, but Speedball like backs into him by accident somehow. Like where he didn't notice Thor was there.
He was so busy hiding and like slinking away from the battle. He's like, I don't want to fight the Juggernaut anymore.
Now, Marvel Boy. Now, this dopey Marvel Boy, he couldn't even lift up Thor with his telekinetic powers, but he's going to stop the Juggernaut with that.
He's going to fling like little pieces of masonry at him. That'll do it. Those boxcars couldn't do it, but
these splinters that I'm throwing at you will do it. So Juggernaut just keeps on trucking, keeps walking. And then Marvel Boy says, hey, Firestar, let him have it. Or he says, get him, lady. She says, I'll do what I can. And she's pumping him full of radioactive microwaves and all that stuff, heating them up.
Radiation.
Yeah, the radiation. And his costume is turning white hot. And and she's like...
It seemed like a good strategy. Like, oh, yeah, you make him take off the costume because he's so hot. But
I don't think the Juggernaut feels heat or anything, does he?
Yeah. I guess not. No, apparently he just shrugs it off. He's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
This is a magic suit. Like, it doesn't really bother me, I guess.
Yeah. So they're like, all right, now what do we do? And Night Thrasher's like, you know what? Let me have another crack at it with my skateboard. And they're like, no, Night Thrasher, no, we don't need to do that again. Knock it off.
Do a 900. That's not going to help, Night Thrasher.
Well, Thor shows up now, and he's like, all right, Juggernaut, me and you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm the these kids out here, and now I'm going to take you down. Now that I'm not having a seizure, this will be a fair fight.
So Thor hits Mjolnir against the ground there and causes to call a big old lightning bolt down. And Karzak cracks into a lot of weird sound effects in this issue.
Yeah.
And it hits Juggernaut. It's like this huge explosion, and all the new warriors are like, oh my god, there's no way he survived that. But then the next panel, Juggernaut's just standing there. He's fine.
Everything's smoldering around him, but he's looking good. Again, these kids don't understand the concept of the Juggernaut.
So he just says, that tickled, do it again. You shouldn't be disappointed, pal. Nothing can stop me. Nothing. So what does Thor do now, Jank? Because I didn't know this was a thing that he could do, but this is very odd. But why don't you explain what he does?
Yeah, it's a little Deus Ex Machina thing. So he says he's going to call on some other power that he has. I must call forth the God Force, which flows within my veins, and unite it with the irresistible power of mine enchanted Uru mallet, and the God of Thunder shall become one with the Hammer Supreme. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what. Like, did you just make this up?
Like, as being a god, like you also have godlike powers and some other. I don't know. I thought that's basically what his storm powers were, but I don't know. They're saying just being a god, there's some ethereal god force, like the Flash has his speed force, I guess, and you can just tap into it.
Yeah, I didn't like this at all. This seems weird.
Yeah.
But he channels it through Mjolnir, and it just shoots out like a lightning or a laser beam out of Mjolnir, and it shoots into the Juggernaut there. Garthum hits him, and Juggernaut's like, "Hey, wait a minute! This is actually kind of stopping me. I can't move forward anymore. This God Force thing might not be a joke." And he's like, "You're actually kind of stopping the Juggernaut." But then, the ground beneath him just gives way. I thought they were on solid Earth, but apparently...
I guess the God Force converted it into, soft something. I don't know. It's not all white, so it's like glass, like he turned it into glass.
Yes. It's just weird. Wouldn't it be solid glass then? I don't know. But anyway, it ends up with him falling into a pit, basically.
Yeah.
So he's down in a hole, and the minute he's down there, Nova and Namorita start throwing in steel I-beams on top of him, and then Firestar comes in and melts the steel I-beams, so it creates like a metal cocoon in the ground. And Thor's like, hey, that's not going to stop him. He's still the Juggernaut. He'll still get out of there.
No, I'm pretty sure that stopped him when like Spider-Man trapped him in concrete for a while.
It stops him for a little bit, but he's still going to get out. Bit. You know. Yeah. So Thor's like, we got to act quick. So then what does Thor do?
So he sends him to another dimension. He's like, not even this steel cocoon will restrain the Juggernaut for long. Thus I must call upon my mystic mallet to open the portals of time and space and banish this obelisk to some distant dimension.
Can he do that? Can Thor
that I think he can do. I think he can open up portals. Essentially, they showed it in the movies as like he would call on Heimdall and he would open up the portal that way. But I think he can. I think Thor can do that. I think I have seen him do that in other.
But I thought he could just. But if he could do it, I thought it was just to get to Asgard. But he can just go through time and space anywhere?
I think so, yeah.
All right. I'm learning a lot about Thor in this issue.
Yeah.
Almost as much as I learned about Hercules.
We know his dad has a beard.
And he likes Alf.
That's all you really need to know.
So yeah, Juggernaut is in space now. He's just on some distant planet. And he's like, hey, I don't recognize this place. Where am I? Bah, it doesn't really matter. I'll eventually find a way home, and I'll get Thor, because nothing can stop the Juggernaut. Hey, Juggernaut, if you're on an alien planet, and it's just a barren planet, I don't think you're getting home. It's just the way it is.
I'd be a little more worried about that. Your power set doesn't really help you out here.
Not a good match for you. So,
obviously didn't last long, because he was back fairly quickly.
Well, I think it did last a little bit, because then, from what I read, he somehow became like a space overlord. He like took control of some planet or something, kind of like World War Hulk situation. And then someone came and got him. Then I can't remember who it was. If it was like Black Tom Cassidy or something, or
I know him and Black Tom fought X-Force in probably some point within the first 10 issues or so. So couldn't have been more than a year and a half till he came back.
So yeah, eventually he comes back, but he did have a little space adventure, I guess.
That's great. I would love to see that.
Yeah. So, all right, now the New Warriors are celebrating. Hey, we really beat the Juggernaut. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we cut over to Loki, looking all mad. He's like, the Juggernaut failed me. That incompetent buffoon. Look at that. What the hell did they do there in that panel? That incompetent. Oh, there's just an E missing, I guess. Like it got transfer. Okay.
Yeah, I think it happened again where they called like Kane Marco. It just said Kane Mark or something like that. What?
I'm guessing that's a scanning issue, not really we'll hope it's not a lettering issue. But but he's like, but I am far from beaten. They are all destined to perish as a result of my axe of vengeance.
You gotta slip the title in there.
All right, so now we cut back to the New Warriors and Thor, and they're celebrating. They're like, yeah, we beat the Juggernaut. Yeehaw.
I mean, Thor really beat him for the most part. He just sent him to another place, so.
And Night Thrasher says, we intend to fight. Oh, I'm sorry, you're Night Thrasher. Read Night Thrasher.
Oh, yeah. We intend to fight for justice, punish the guilty, and crush them like vermin.
He just says that in the middle of them all being all happy.
Yeah. This is your man in charge.
And Nova's like, hey, that's your trip, Thrash. The rest of us are a bit more mellow.
We're just here to smoke pot. That's really all we got together for.
And Thor puts his hand on Speedball's shoulder and he's like, take heed, my friends. True justice must ever be tempered by mercy. Thou art young and have much to learn of honor and nobility, but methinks the world shall soon marvel at the stirring exploits of the new warriors. And he flies off, and we get a team shot of the new warriors looking right at the camera. What a bunch of
losers. A very small, portion of the world will enjoy their exploits till they have to try to make it a Spider-Man book to get people to sell more issues.
look at these clowns. Does anyone think they're like a good team? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you got Night Thrasher. What more do you need? One man all on his own.
So next issue, the Thunder God learns the startling cause behind his crippling seizures, and he discovers the true identity of the sinister mastermind behind the acts of vengeance. Oh yeah, so no one knew it was Loki, I guess.
Oh.
All this plus a special guest appearance by the mysterious Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. Within me dwells a monster. It's next month. Now, when I looked at this book on Marvel Fandom, it said that there's a backstory as well featuring Beta Ray Bill, but the version we read did not include that. So
no. This one, I think it was dated. Like, if you look at the date, like it says like 2012 or something like that. So this is clearly a reprint. Maybe this was like an Acts of Vengeance, the omnibus or something. They scanned this out.
Maybe, yeah.
So they didn't bother with the backup stories.
All right, so there it is, the Mighty Thor 412, the Acts of Vengeance crossover, the first real appearance of the New Warriors. What'd you think, Jank?
It was delightful. These kids are just so dumb and so terrible at every turn. Like, they're just so woefully undermanned for this thing and have no idea that, how badly they've messed up by taking on the Juggernaut. And they never seem to really grasp that fact. But it was a lot of action, pretty much wall to wall, other than the divorce scene, but
is it really action when Juggernaut's just walking around, everybody's bouncing off him and falling?
Hey, you're a wrestling guy. Sometimes you gotta have that,
squash match.
Bunch of jobbers and just show how good the guy is.
I guess there's a lot of fighting, one-way fighting in this issue.
Yeah.
Juggernaut was great, just trying to tell him, hey kids, you're stupid, I'm the Juggernaut.
Yeah,
pop it.
That's kind of that's when the Juggernaut's at his best. He's like, I'm just trying to do my thing. Like, why are you all messing with me?
Yeah, I like that he wasn't trying to fight them really. He was just trying to walk away, and they just kept fighting him. And till Thor showed up, and I think got rough for him.
Another dimension, yeah.
But I like the ending there. They acted like a team, the classic X-Men kind of situation where they all use their strengths there to take them out with throwing the I-beams, melting the I-beams and all that stuff. So that was pretty good. Hercules reading Alf was clearly the highlight.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Forever change your opinion on Hercules.
No doubt. I liked when he got Galactus drunk. Remember that? That was good.
Yeah, I mean, he's really winning us over on this show.
And he also made Sweet Sweet Love to Nova, Frankie Ray. Remember that?
Yep.
So,
see, now I'm glad that the Avengers didn't mourn his death more.
Yeah.
Clearly he was a good guy.
So yeah, I am a Hercules guy now. What else? Like it's just a goofy, dopey book, but it was fun.
Not a very substantial book by any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun enough.
Yeah. Ron Friends' art was perfectly adequate. I always considered Ron Friends like just like a 5 on the 1 to 10 scale, like right in the middle. Right in the middle.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but you're also never going to be like, oh, Ron Friends drew this book. Fine.
I got to buy the next Ron Friends issue.
Yeah.
Professional, perfectly serviceable comic book art, but nothing really will excite you when you're reading it.
No. If anybody in the world said my favorite artist was Ron Friends, I would have a lot of questions.
Again, to make a wrestling analogy, he's like a good mid-card guy, just good hand to have in the company, but he's not going to be your champion. Let's put it that way.
No, not so much.
So who else? Any other points to make about this issue? I think the New Warriors are a terrible team. I think Night Thrasher is a clown. I don't like any of these guys.
I love Night Thrasher because he's such a clown. That just makes me love him more. It's such a ridiculous character that I can't help but like it.
I can't help but hate it. So I don't know. I'll probably go 7. I would say 7 because it's a fun book, but it's got the Juggernaut. I love the Juggernaut. Probably only been a 6 without that Alf reference, but I'll give it a 7.
Wow, full extra point.
Oh, easy. Yeah, you get an Alf in there. It's definitely a point.
Nice. Yeah, I'll probably give it a 7.5.
7.5.
Yeah. Rounded up a little bit.
All right, there you go. So that's Thor issue 412. Next week on the big show, I almost picked another Thor, Jack. For the first time in history, we're going to go back to back because there's a Thor issue from the 1970s where Thor gets involved in professional wrestling. And yeah, we're definitely going to do it at some point. But when I was deciding what issue to pick, our buddy Bob Myers reached out to me.
Hey.
And he said, hey, if you guys are going to do a certain book that Jank mentioned last episode during the Flea Awards, I want in on that. And I said, oh, we'll do another one of those books right now. Let's do that, Bob Myers. So our buddy Bob Myers will be joining us next week for a book that Jank said he wanted to read during the Flea Awards. We will be doing Ms. Tree, issue 21 from 1985. Ms. Tree. We had done, I believe we did Ms. Tree issue 13 on here a couple years ago, and I loved it. One of the favorite books I've ever read on this show. And although I look back at the history of the Flea Awards, that Ms. Tree won 3 awards, but they did not win Best Comic because that year it went up against Wolverine issue 1. So that's tough.
Yep.
But she did win Best Hero, Best Writing, and Best Cover. So 3-time Flea Award winner, Ms. Tree.
That's pretty solid.
So next week, issue 21 with our buddy Bob Myers. Are you excited, Jack?
If there's a scene where Ms. Tree is reading Alf, then yes.
You better be excited. So. All right, that's next week here on The Big Show. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We appreciate the support. We're only 280 subscribers away from doing the Dark Knight series here on the show.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns. Let's make it happen.
That'll be great. All right. Until next week, don't get any jank on you.